It was a Tuesday evening. I remember it so clearly because of the way the phone rang. There's a certain sound to a phone ringing in the quiet of the night that makes your heart skip a beat, especially when you're not expecting any calls. This was one of those moments. The world was still, as if waiting for something to happen. And when it did, it was not the kind of thing you can just forget. The caller ID flashed, and for a second, I froze. It was an unfamiliar number. Something deep inside me stirred, an instinctual warning that I couldn't quite place. I should have ignored it, let it go to voicemail like I had done countless times before. But for some reason, I answered it. "Hello," I said, my voice sounding unusually small, even to my own ears. "Is this James?" the voice on the other end asked. It was a woman's voice, but it didn't sound like someone I knew. The tone was flat, matter of fact, like she was reading a script. "Yes, who's this?" I asked, a knot forming in my stomach. The tension in the air was almost palpable. "This is Mara," she said, her voice sharp now, as if my confusion had irritated her. "I'm calling because I need to tell you something. And it's important." There was a pause, the kind where the world seems to hold its breath. "Okay," I said, trying to steady my pulse. I was already bracing myself for bad news, though I couldn't explain why. It's a strange thing, that sense of dread, how it can sneak up on you without warning, like a cloud rolling in on an otherwise calm day. "I'm the one who's been, I've been seeing your wife, Eliza," she said, her words slow and deliberate. "And you deserve to know. She doesn't want you to find out this way, but she's been lying to you. And I can't keep hiding it anymore." I felt the blood drain from my face. My hands, which had been casually resting by my side, clenched into fists. My heart began to pound in my chest. I heard the words, but they didn't seem real. This couldn't be happening. Not to me. Not to us. "I know this is a lot to process," Mara continued, her voice still steady. "But Eliza, she's been seeing me for the past 6 months. I didn't want to hurt you, but she's been lying to both of us. And I can't do this anymore. You need to hear it from me, because I don't think she ever planned to tell you." The phone felt like it was melting in my hand, like it was the only thing anchoring me to reality. Yet the more I gripped it, the less it seemed to matter. Everything felt distorted, warped. My mind raced through 1,000 thoughts, none of which seemed to land on anything solid. Why? Why are you telling me this?" I asked, my voice trembling. I was fighting to keep myself together, but the truth was, I didn't want to know. I didn't want this reality. "Because you deserve to know, and because I've been trying to reach out to Eliza, but she's been avoiding me. I don't know if she's still with you, but if she is, you need to hear the truth. She's been using you, James." I felt my vision narrow. It was as if the world around me faded into the background, and all that remained was the voice on the other end of the line. Mara's words were a blur, but they kept repeating in my head. "She's been using you." It took every ounce of control I had not to break down right there, right then. I couldn't cry. Not now. Not like this. I had to know the truth, even though I didn't want to hear it. I tried to speak, but the words caught in my throat. "What do you mean?" I managed to say, struggling to hold on to whatever dignity I had left. Mara sighed deeply, as if she were exhausted, like this conversation had taken everything from her. "She's been hiding this from you for months, James. And I think she's done with you. She's been avoiding you, hasn't she? Telling you she's too busy, that she's working late or out with friends. She's been with me. And I think you've known. You've just been too afraid to see it." I couldn't speak. It was like I was paralyzed, unable to move, trapped in a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. I could feel the air in my lungs growing thin, suffocating me. The words from the other side of the phone bled into my mind, and I couldn't get them out. They echoed, louder with each passing second. Mara continued, but I barely heard her now. My thoughts were all tangled up. Eliza, my wife, she had been seeing someone else? How had I missed this? How had I been so blind? I thought back to the last few months, the late nights she came home, the strange excuses, the coldness in her eyes when I tried to talk to her. There had always been something off, but I had convinced myself that it was just stress, or maybe work. I hadn't wanted to see the truth. But now, it was undeniable. "I don't want to ruin your life, but you need to hear this. I'm sorry, James. I never wanted it to be like this. But Eliza's not the woman you think she is." The last words from Mara faded, and the phone call ended. I stood there for what felt like hours, unable to move. My mind was still processing, still trying to comprehend what had just happened. But it was already too late. The damage had been done. I had been betrayed by the one person I trusted most. And this was just the beginning. It was strange how quickly everything could unravel. 1 minute, you're living your life, going through the motions, feeling like things are fine, and the next minute, your whole reality is shattered. That phone call from Mara echoed in my head, repeating over and over again like a broken record. Eliza, my wife, had been seeing someone else. I still couldn't wrap my mind around it. It felt surreal, like a bad dream I couldn't wake up from. After that call, I didn't know what to do. I couldn't just pretend like everything was okay. How could I? I kept staring at my phone, hoping that somehow, someway, Eliza would call, that she'd explain herself. I thought about texting her, but something told me I shouldn't. I wasn't ready for that conversation yet. I wasn't sure if I could even face her. For the next few hours, I sat in the living room, the silence hanging heavy around me. The house felt so empty, so cold. Every room seemed to amplify the thoughts that were racing through my head. How had I been so blind? How had I missed the signs? I went through all the memories of the last few months in my head. The late nights at work she'd claimed were just about deadlines. The weekends she'd gone out with friends, but never really talked about. The little lies, the tiny gaps in the story, the way she'd started pulling away when we'd try to talk about our future. How had I let it all slide? How had I let her slip through my fingers like that? I tried calling her once, just to see if she'd pick up. My heart pounded in my chest as the phone rang, but all I heard was the cold, robotic voicemail greeting. You've reached Eliza. Leave a message after the beep. I hung up without leaving a message. What could I even say? I thought about confronting her, demanding answers, but deep down, I knew that wasn't going to give me the clarity I needed. I wasn't even sure I wanted to hear the truth straight from her. I'd heard enough from Mara, enough to make everything crystal clear, but I still couldn't make sense of it. How could Eliza, the woman I thought I knew better than anyone, betray me like this? Around midnight, I decided I couldn't sit around waiting for some kind of miracle. I needed to do something, anything, to get out of this headspace. I grabbed my jacket and went for a walk. The night was cold, and I could feel the wind biting at my skin, but I didn't care. I needed to clear my head. As I walked through the empty streets, I found myself replaying everything. The good moments, the bad ones. All of it. How had we gotten here? Was it something I had done? Or was it just a matter of her growing distant? A relationship doesn't fall apart overnight, right? This had been building for months, maybe even longer. When I got back to the apartment, I felt like I had gained no clarity. If anything, I was more confused than ever. There were still so many questions and no answers. I stared at my phone again, wondering if I should try calling her again. But what was the point? Would she even answer? I didn't think she would. At that moment, something in me snapped. The feeling that had been building all evening, anger, sadness, betrayal, it all came rushing to the surface. I wanted answers. I wanted to confront Eliza, to hear the truth from her lips. But I couldn't bring myself to do it. Not yet. Instead, I did something I never thought I would do. I packed a bag. It wasn't a big bag, just enough to get away for a little while. I didn't know where I was going, but I needed space. I needed to get away from the place where all of this had happened, from the memories that had been tainted. I needed to escape the suffocating grip of the truth. By the time I was done packing, it was close to 3 a.m. I didn't have a plan, but I couldn't stay there any longer. I didn't even leave a note. I didn't want her to know where I was going. It wasn't a form of revenge or some dramatic gesture. It was just escape. I had to disappear for a little while, to clear my head, to figure out what came next. As I drove into the night, the city lights blurred in the rearview mirror. I couldn't help but feel like I was running away from my own life. But that's what it felt like now. My life was no longer mine. Everything had changed in the span of a single phone call, and I was left with nothing but the question of why. I had to know more, and I couldn't shake the feeling that something else was lurking beneath the surface. What if Mara was telling the truth? What if Eliza had been seeing someone else for longer than she admitted? What if I had been nothing more than a placeholder in her life? The road stretched out ahead of me, long and empty, much like my thoughts. I didn't have answers, but I had questions, and I knew that this wasn't the end of the story. Far from it. There was more to this, and I would find out what it was, one way or another. The first morning after leaving felt strange. It was like waking up from a nightmare, but the nightmare hadn't ended. I had driven for hours, not knowing exactly where I was headed, but I ended up at a small motel by a quiet lake, miles away from my life in the city. It felt like I had escaped to a different world, one where I didn't have to face the questions that kept spiraling in my head. But the more I tried to shut out the noise, the louder it became. I spent the morning pacing around the room, running through every conversation, every moment I had with Eliza, searching for some kind of clue. Had I missed something? The last few months felt like a blur, filled with subtle hints that I had ignored. The late-night work meetings, the times she'd canceled plans with me for no reason, her sudden coldness. But what hurt the most wasn't the betrayal itself, it was the fact that I hadn't seen it coming. How could I have been so blind? How could I have spent so much time thinking everything was fine when it clearly wasn't? As I sat down by the small desk in the motel room, I couldn't help but feel like I was stuck in a loop. I reached into my bag and pulled out my phone. The screen lit up with a dozen missed calls, all from Eliza. A pit formed in my stomach. I had been avoiding her calls, of course, but now, seeing them all stacked up, unanswered, felt like another kind of betrayal. Betraying myself by not confronting the reality. I stared at the phone for what felt like an eternity before finally hitting the call button. The phone rang twice before she picked up. James. Her voice was soft, tentative, almost like she wasn't sure what to say, like she knew she had lost her place in my life. Where are you? I asked, my voice colder than I intended. Why haven't you called me back? There was a long pause on the other end of the line. I didn't know how to reach you. I thought you'd be angry. You think? I could feel my blood pressure rise. You think? Eliza, I'm past angry. I'm trying to figure out what happened. What happened to us? I didn't mean for things to go this far, she said, her voice cracking slightly. It's complicated. James, I never wanted to hurt you. I almost laughed, but it came out as a bitter exhale. Complicated? You've been seeing someone else for months, Eliza. How much more complicated can it get? Her silence hit me like a punch. I could practically feel her heart racing through the phone. James, I'm sorry. I don't know what to say. It just happened. I could hear the guilt in her voice, but it didn't make me feel any better. It didn't make the truth any easier to swallow. The silence between us stretched for what felt like an eternity. Finally, I spoke again. I don't know if I can forgive you, I said, my voice more defeated than angry. I don't know if I even want to. You've shattered everything we built, everything I thought we had. She sighed deeply, almost like she was giving up. I know I've hurt you, James. I just don't know how to fix it. The words hit me like a flood, overwhelming me in a way that left me numb. Don't fix it, I said. It's too late for that. I hung up without waiting for her to respond. For a moment, I just stared at the phone, feeling the weight of everything crash down on me. I wasn't angry anymore. I was just tired. Tired of the lies, tired of pretending, tired of trying to hold on to something that had already slipped away. But there was something inside me that still wasn't finished. The part of me that refused to let go, that demanded answers, even though I knew they might break me further. The part of me that couldn't let this be the end. That night, I found myself outside the motel, pacing by the lake. The stars above seemed far away, distant, just like the life I had left behind. My mind was still racing. I couldn't go back to the city yet. I wasn't ready to face Eliza, but I wasn't ready to walk away from everything, either. I needed to know more. I needed to understand why she had done this, why she had betrayed me. And that's when I saw her. Not Eliza, but someone else, Mara. The woman who had first told me about the affair. She was standing by the water's edge, looking out at the moonlit reflection on the surface, completely unaware of my presence. I couldn't believe it. The woman who had started this whole mess was standing there in front of me. I froze for a moment, not sure what to do, but something inside me told me this was it. This was the moment I'd been waiting for, the moment I'd get the answers I was craving. I took a step forward, cautiously, making my presence known. Mara turned, surprised to see me standing there. James, she said, her voice calm, like she had expected me to find her. I knew you'd come looking for me. I was caught off guard. Why are you here? I asked, my voice tight. I'm not here to cause more problems, she said. I knew you needed answers. And I think you deserve them. I felt the tension in my chest tighten. Answers? I repeated. What else could you possibly tell me? She took a deep breath, looking down at the ground for a moment before meeting my gaze. Everything. But it's not going to be easy for you to hear. And just like that, I knew this wasn't over. The truth had only just begun. I didn't know what to expect when Mara said she had more to tell me, but nothing could have prepared me for what was about to unfold. The moonlight reflected off the water, casting a cold, eerie glow over the scene. Mara stood in front of me, calm and composed, but there was a strange intensity in her eyes that I couldn't shake off. I was standing at the edge of my own unraveling life, and she seemed to hold the thread that would pull it all apart. "You've been asking the wrong questions, James," Mara said, her voice steady but laden with something I couldn't quite place. Sympathy, maybe, or guilt. "It's not just about Eliza. It's never been just about her." I was already shaking my head, my thoughts spinning in 1,000 directions. "What do you mean? You've already told me everything. You've told me she's been lying to me, and that she's been seeing you. What else is there?" She looked at me for a long moment, her gaze unwavering, almost as if she were trying to decide how much of the truth I could handle. "It's bigger than that. Much bigger." My heart skipped a beat, and a cold shiver ran down my spine. There was something in her tone, something dark, like she knew more about me than I did myself. The realization hit me hard. She wasn't just some other woman Eliza had been seeing. She was part of something I hadn't even begun to understand. "James, Eliza isn't the person you think she is," Mara said, taking a step closer to me. Her words were soft but heavy, like they carried the weight of years of secrets. I didn't just fall for her, and she didn't just fall for me. This wasn't some random affair. Eliza's been involved in something far deeper, something much darker. I couldn't process it. The world around me seemed to freeze. The sound of the water lapping against the shore became distant, like it was happening in another life, another world. "What do you mean? What could be darker than what you've already told me?" Mara sighed, almost like she'd been expecting this. She ran a hand through her hair, her eyes narrowing slightly, as if preparing herself for something unpleasant. "It's not just about her and me. She's been hiding something that's been going on for a lot longer than you think. Something that involves people you would never expect." I felt a lump form in my throat. Every instinct I had screamed at me to turn away, to walk away from this conversation. But I couldn't. Not now. I had to know. "What people?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "What is it?" Mara stepped back and glanced around, like she was ensuring no one was listening. The night was still, the air thick with tension. She took a deep breath before speaking again, her voice lower now, more urgent. "Eliza's been involved in something with a group of people. They call themselves the Collective. It's a network of people, powerful people, people who manipulate and control things behind the scenes. Eliza, she's been working for them." My mind reeled. I blinked hard, trying to shake off the fog in my brain. "You're telling me my wife has been part of some kind of underground group?" I almost laughed, but there was no humor in it. No amusement, only disbelief. "What kind of group? What are they doing?" Mara's face tightened, and for the first time since I had met her, she looked genuinely scared. "I don't have all the answers, but Eliza has been a part of this group for years. She's been feeding them information, helping them manipulate people in positions of power. I'm not sure what their end game is, but I know it's dangerous. And I think Eliza started to get in too deep." I couldn't breathe. My chest felt tight, like the air itself was pressing down on me. This was beyond anything I could have imagined. Eliza, the woman I thought I knew so well, the woman I married, was involved in something so sinister? It didn't make sense. "I don't believe you," I finally said, but even as the words left my mouth, I wasn't sure I meant them. "How could you be involved in something like this and not tell me? If you knew all of this, why didn't you come forward sooner?" Mara winced, as if my accusation stung her. I didn't want to get caught in the middle. And honestly, I didn't know who I could trust. I thought I could get out, but Eliza kept pulling me back in. She didn't want to, but she needed it. I think it's been the only thing that's kept her going these last few months. "Kept her going?" I repeated, the words tasting bitter in my mouth. "What do you mean by that?" Mara bit her lip, clearly struggling to find the right words. "I don't think Eliza's the same person you married, James. She's changed. She's been acting like someone else for a long time now. It's like she's under their control. They have a hold on her. And I think the more she's been involved with them, the less she's been able to see the truth." My heart pounded harder, every word Mara said cutting deeper than the last. I didn't know what to think anymore. How could Eliza, the woman I had trusted, the woman I had loved, become someone so different? How had she gotten involved in something like this without me even noticing? I didn't know where to go from here. Part of me wanted to walk away, to leave this all behind, but another part of me, a part one hated, was drawn to it. I wanted answers. I needed them. And somehow, I knew that Mara had them. She might have been the one to bring this nightmare into my life, but she was also the key to ending it. What do I do now? I asked, my voice shaky. Where do I go from here? Mara looked at me, her expression unreadable. You'll have to decide that for yourself. But if you want the truth, you're going to have to dig deeper. It's not going to be easy, and it's not going to be pretty. But you need to know what's really been happening. Not just with Eliza, but with everything. I nodded, though I wasn't sure if I was ready for what was coming next. But one thing was certain. I was no longer the same person who walked into this town just days ago. And the truth, no matter how dark it was the only thing I could focus on now. I had to find Eliza. I had to find out everything, even if it destroyed me. The weight of Mara's words settled over me like a suffocating fog. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think straight. The collective, she called it. A network of powerful people manipulating and controlling things behind the scenes. Eliza had been part of it. My wife, the woman I had trusted, was somehow involved in something so sinister that I couldn't even begin to comprehend it. I stood at the edge of the water, staring at the dark reflection of the trees, my mind scrambling to make sense of it all. How long has she been involved in this? I finally asked, my voice shaky but desperate. I needed more answers. If there was a chance to fix this, I had to know everything. Mara looked away, almost as if she were struggling with whether or not to continue. It's been years, she said quietly. Eliza got into it when she was younger. They pulled her in with promises of power, money, things she wanted, things that kept her hooked. I could feel the cold water lapping at my feet, the chills seeping through my shoes, but it didn't matter. The real cold was inside me, spreading like ice, freezing everything I once thought was real. Eliza wasn't just the woman I loved. She wasn't even the woman I thought I knew. Why would she do this? The question escaped me before I could stop it. Why would she get involved in something so dangerous? Mara's gaze softened, but there was an edge of bitterness in her voice when she spoke again. Because she thought she had no other choice. She thought the power, the control, would give her what she needed. But somewhere along the way, she lost herself. She lost everything that mattered. I could feel anger rising in me now, mixing with the confusion. And you? How does this involve you? You said you didn't want to get involved, but you're here. You're the one who told me everything. Mara's face hardened, and I saw something dark flicker in her eyes. I didn't want to get involved, James, she said slowly. But when Eliza pulled me in, I couldn't just walk away. And when I realized how far gone she was, how deep she was into all of this, I had to make a choice. I couldn't let her keep doing this. Not to you. Not to herself. Her words left me reeling, a whirlwind of emotions crashing over me. Betrayal, confusion, anger, and even something I couldn't name. Maybe it was fear. Fear that I had been living a lie. Fear that I was so far in the dark that I couldn't even see which direction to go anymore. I took a deep breath, steadying myself. So what do I do now? Where do I even begin to find the truth? How do I even start to untangle all this? Mara glanced at me, her eyes narrowing slightly, as if weighing my resolve. You want to confront her, right? You want to know why she did this. You want answers. I nodded slowly, my chest tight. Of course. She's my wife. She's been lying to me for months, and I have to know why. Mara hesitated, then shook her head. You're going to have to be careful, James. The collective doesn't just let people go. If you go after Eliza, they'll come after you too. They'll do whatever it takes to protect their interests. And that includes keeping you in the dark. They'll do anything to stop you from finding out the truth. I swallowed hard, feeling the weight of her warning pressed down on me. So what do you want me to do? Just walk away and forget about all this? No, Mara said sharply. I'm not telling you to walk away. I'm telling you that you need to be smarter than that. The more you dig, the more dangerous it becomes. You have to play their game, but you have to do it on your own terms. If you want to find Eliza and learn the truth, you need to go where they are, not where they expect you to be. I was quiet for a long time, trying to process what Mara was saying. This wasn't just about Eliza anymore. This was about something much bigger, something that could ruin everything. My mind raced with the possibilities. What kind of game was I even playing now? What kind of world had I unknowingly stepped into? I had spent so long thinking of my life as a simple one. I had my job, my wife, my routine. But now, it felt like the floor had been ripped out from under me, and I was falling into a world I didn't understand, a world of lies and power and manipulation. Finally, I looked up at Mara, my expression hardening. "I'm not going to stop until I know the truth," I said, my voice low and determined. "I won't rest until I find out what's really going on. And I won't let Eliza get away with this. She owes me that much." Mara didn't respond immediately. Instead, she gave me a long, searching look, as if she were trying to figure out if I truly understood the danger I was walking into. "You're making a mistake, James," she said quietly. "But if you're really committed to this, I'll help you. Just be careful. You can't trust anyone, not even me. Not anymore." I nodded, though I wasn't sure I fully understood what she meant. But it didn't matter. I had made up my mind. I was going after Eliza, no matter what it took. If the truth meant tearing everything apart, then so be it. I couldn't live in the dark anymore. I needed to see it all. Before I could say another word, Mara turned and walked away, disappearing into the shadows, leaving me alone by the water. The quiet lake reflected the darkness above, and I felt an overwhelming sense of finality. The point of no return had passed. I was committed now. There was no turning back. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for what was coming next. The truth was out there, and I was going to find it, even if it meant losing everything I had left. The days that followed felt like a blur, each one blending into the next with a strange sense of urgency and dread. I kept replaying everything in my mind: Mara's words, Eliza's betrayal, the dark secrets of the collective. My whole world had turned upside down, and there was no going back. The path ahead was unclear, and yet, the one thing I knew for certain was that I had to keep moving forward. I couldn't let it end like this, not without knowing the truth. I spent the next few days trying to piece together what I had learned. I couldn't rely on Eliza to explain herself, not after everything that had happened. I couldn't trust her anymore, but I could trust the fragments of information I had. I started looking into the collective, though it wasn't easy. No one talked about them. It was like they were ghosts, moving in the shadows, manipulating everything from the sidelines. I scoured forums, dug through old news reports, and tried to find any clue that might lead me to them. But it felt like every answer led to another question, and every lead I followed brought me deeper into a world I didn't belong in. But I couldn't stop. Not now. I had to find out what Eliza had gotten herself involved in, and why. She wasn't the same woman I had fallen in love with. Something had changed, something that ran deeper than I had ever imagined. The woman I thought I knew had been hiding a part of herself that I couldn't even begin to understand. And that realization cut deeper than the betrayal itself. One evening, after a long day of research that seemed to go nowhere, I received a message from an unknown number. I had no idea who it was, but something about it made my heart skip a beat. My thumb hovered over the screen as I debated whether or not to open it. I had been avoiding all messages from Eliza, but this felt different. I opened the message. The words were short and to the point. "I know where she is. Meet me at the old warehouse at midnight." There was no name, no explanation, just that chilling message. My hands trembled as I read it over and over again, trying to make sense of it. Who was this? Why did they know where Eliza was? And why the warehouse? It could be a trap, I knew that. It could be anyone, pretending to be someone with information. But at the same time, it was the only lead I had. I couldn't afford to wait any longer. The curiosity gnawed at me, the need for answers consuming me from the inside out. I texted back a simple reply: "I'll be there." The hours before midnight dragged on, each minute feeling like an eternity. I tried to calm myself, tried to prepare for whatever might be waiting for me at the warehouse, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I was walking straight into danger. My mind kept returning to Mara's warning. The collective didn't let people walk away. If I was digging into something they didn't want uncovered, there would be consequences. I didn't know if I was ready for those consequences, but I didn't have a choice anymore. By the time I arrived at the warehouse, the air was thick with tension. It was an old, abandoned building on the outskirts of the city, surrounded by darkness. I parked my car a few blocks away, walking the rest of the way on foot. The silence was unnerving, broken only by the sound of my own footsteps echoing in the night. I glanced around, half expecting someone to jump out from the shadows. but all I saw was the looming, decaying structure ahead of me. I approached the entrance cautiously, the hairs on the back of my neck standing on end. The door to the warehouse was slightly ajar, and I could make out a dim light coming from inside. Whoever had contacted me was already there, waiting. But who were they? And what did they want from me? I stepped inside, my heart pounding in my chest. The vast, empty space of the warehouse felt suffocating, like the walls were closing in on me. The floor creaked under my weight, and I squinted into the darkness, trying to make out any movement. "James," a voice called from the shadows. It was low, raspy, but familiar. My blood ran cold. "Eliza?" I whispered, taking a step forward. My mind raced. Was it really her? Was this a trap? A figure emerged from the shadows. It wasn't Eliza, but it was someone I recognized. "Mara, why did you bring me here?" I demanded, my voice sharp, angry. "What's going on? Where's Eliza?" Mara didn't respond right away. She stepped into the light, her face grim. "I couldn't let you go in blind," she said, her eyes meeting mine with an intensity one hadn't seen before. "You have to understand, James. The collective won't just let you waltz in and get answers. You're going to have to be smarter than that. If you want to find Eliza and understand what's really going on, you have to be prepared for the truth. The kind of truth that could ruin everything." I took a step back, the weight of her words sinking in. "What do you mean?" I asked, my voice trembling now with a mix of fear and confusion. Mara looked around the warehouse, her eyes scanning the dark corners as if checking for someone or something. She motioned for me to follow her deeper into the building. "We don't have much time," she said. "You're already too deep into this. They know you're looking. They know you're trying to find Eliza. And soon, they'll come for you. You have to know what you're up against." I followed her, my pulse quickening with each step. "What are you talking about? Who are these people? What do they want from her?" I demanded, my frustration boiling over. She stopped in front of a large, rusted door at the back of the warehouse and turned to face me. "You want answers, James?" she said, her voice low and urgent. "Then you need to see this. But you're not going to like what you find." With a slow, deliberate motion, she opened the door. What lay beyond that door was something I never expected, something I couldn't have possibly prepared for. The truth was darker than I could have imagined, and it would change everything. The door creaked open, revealing a narrow passageway that led to a hidden chamber beyond the warehouse. The light was dim, flickering like it was struggling to stay on. My heart pounded in my chest as I followed Mara down the narrow hall, the air thick with dust and the faint scent of something metallic. The farther we went, the more unsettling the atmosphere became. It wasn't just the eerie silence that surrounded us or the forgotten corners of the building. It was the feeling that we were walking into something we had no business seeing. We reached the end of the corridor, where a thick steel door stood, heavily reinforced and old, yet somehow intimidating. Mara paused, her hand resting on the cold, rusted handle. She turned to face me, her eyes darkened with a hint of fear, or maybe something else. It was hard to tell. "Whatever you see in there, James," she said, her voice barely above a whisper, "you can't unsee it. You'll never look at Eliza the same way again. Are you sure you're ready for this?" I swallowed hard, my breath coming in shallow gasps. What had I gotten myself into? My body felt numb, but I couldn't turn back now. The need for answers, answers I'd been chasing for days, weeks, was too strong to ignore. Eliza, the woman I loved, was involved in something so much darker than I had ever imagined. If this was the only way to understand what had happened, then I had no choice. "I'm ready," I said, trying to steady my shaking voice. "Just open the door." Mara nodded, her face unreadable, and with a slow, deliberate motion, she twisted the handle and pushed the door open. It squealed as it moved, the sound cutting through the stillness like a warning. The room inside was barely illuminated by a single flickering bulb hanging from the ceiling. As my eyes adjusted to the dim light, I saw rows upon rows of files, piled high, some of them stacked neatly, others haphazardly thrown together. But it wasn't the files that caught my attention. It was the walls, lined with photographs, maps, and newspaper clippings. Some were recent, others yellowed with age. I stepped inside, my heart racing as I scanned the room. My eyes were drawn to the center of the room, where a large desk sat, covered in more documents, old books, and strange symbols I didn't recognize. A faint buzzing sound filled the air, almost like a hum, coming from somewhere deep within the room. Mara stood behind me, her arms crossed. She didn't say anything at first, just let me take in the scene. I could feel the tension in the air, thick and suffocating. It was like I had stumbled into a hidden world, one that had been operating in the shadows, untouched by the outside world, and one that Eliza had been part of. "What is this place?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. I felt the walls closing in, the weight of what I was seeing pressing down on me. This wasn't just some secret organization. It was a whole underground network, a system of control, of power that stretched far beyond anything I could have imagined. "This," Mara said, her voice laced with bitterness, "is where Eliza's been. This is where everything started, where everything was planned. The collective, they use places like this to control everything. It's where they keep their secrets, their plans. And Eliza? She's been at the center of it all." I turned to look at her, my mind racing. "Eliza's been part of this, for years." Mara nodded grimly. "Yes. She was recruited when she was still in school, looking for answers about her family, about things that didn't make sense. The collective prey on people like that, the ones searching for something, anything, to make their lives feel meaningful. They promised her power, status, everything she ever wanted. And at first, it was just that. She was just an agent, helping them gather information. But over time, she got closer. They trusted her. And then, she started doing things for them. Things that she never told you about." I felt like the ground was shifting beneath my feet. Eliza, my Eliza, had been working for a group like this? How had I not seen it? How had I not known? The woman I thought I knew, the woman I had married, had been hiding this dark side of herself from me for years. My hands clenched into fists. "What kind of things?" Mara's eyes shifted uneasily. "I don't know the details of everything she's done, but I know that it's gotten worse. She's not just helping them anymore, James. She's become one of them. She's been involved in their operations, tracking people, manipulating situations, orchestrating events that would benefit the collective. She's been living a double life." I stumbled back, the weight of her words crashing over me like a tidal wave. Eliza, the woman I had trusted more than anyone, had been living this hidden life. She had been manipulating people, using her influence to help a group of dangerous individuals. And all this time, I had been oblivious. My mind raced with questions. What had she done to me? Had she been using me this entire time? Had everything between us been a lie? I reached out and grabbed one of the files on the desk, my hands shaking as I flipped it open. Inside, there were pages and pages of names, dates, locations. Some of the names were familiar, people I had met throughout the years, colleagues, acquaintances, even friends. They were all connected to the collective in some way. But there were other names, people I didn't recognize, victims of the group, or worse. My stomach turned as I scanned the pages, realizing how deep Eliza had been involved. This is insane," I whispered, my voice shaking with disbelief. "How could she be part of this? How could she do this to me?" Mara didn't answer right away. She just watched me, her expression unreadable. Finally, she spoke. "Eliza's not the person you think she is. She's changed, James. And once you see what she's really done, you're going to have to decide what you're going to do next. You'll either walk away and forget all of this, or you'll fight. But once you step into this world, there's no going back." My mind raced. I could feel the weight of the choice pressing down on me. I had come this far. I had seen too much. I couldn't just walk away now. I had to find Eliza. I had to confront her, to force her to tell me the truth, no matter how much it hurt. I turned to Mara, my resolve hardening. "I'm going after her. I don't care what it takes. I need to know the truth." Mara looked at me, her face somber. "Then you'd better be prepared, James. Because the moment you confront her, everything changes. You're not just fighting for the truth anymore. You're fighting for your life." The days that followed were a blur of uncertainty, fear, and a burning need for answers. I couldn't stop thinking about what Mara had shown me in that hidden room. The files, the photographs, the evidence of Eliza's involvement in the collective. The weight of it all sat heavy on my chest. I couldn't pretend anymore that everything was okay. I couldn't just ignore the truth. Eliza had been living a double life, a life that had been kept from me, and I had to confront her. It was the only way to move forward, to understand why she had done this, and to see if there was any chance of salvaging what we had, or if it was truly gone. I had no idea how Eliza would react, or if she'd even want to talk to me after everything that had come to light. But I knew I couldn't keep running away from her. I couldn't just hide anymore. The night I decided to confront her, I stood outside our apartment, my hand trembling as I reached for the door. I hadn't seen her in days, hadn't spoken to her since that night at the warehouse. I had been avoiding her, trying to make sense of everything, but I couldn't avoid her forever. When I knocked on the door, my heart raced. It felt like a lifetime had passed since the last time I had seen her, and yet, it felt like it had been only moments. The door opened slowly, and there she stood, Eliza. Her eyes widened when she saw me, and I could feel the tension in the air between us. She looked exhausted, as though she hadn't slept in days. But there was something else in her eyes, something I hadn't seen before. Guilt? Regret? I couldn't tell, but it was enough to make me falter for a moment. "James," she whispered, her voice breaking. You shouldn't be here." "I had to be here," I said, my voice firm despite the storm of emotions inside me. "We need to talk. We need to talk about everything." For a moment, Eliza didn't say anything. She just stared at me, as if she were weighing her options, as if she were trying to decide if it was even worth explaining herself. But finally, she stepped aside and let me in. We sat down in the living room, the silence between us thick and heavy. My heart ached as I looked at her, at the woman I had loved for so long, who now seemed so distant, so different. The person sitting across from me wasn't the same woman I had married. But I couldn't just walk away. Not yet. "I know everything," I said, my voice steady but full of emotion. "I know about the collective. I know what you've been involved in." Eliza's face paled, and she looked down at her hands, clearly struggling with the weight of my words. "James, I never meant for you to find out like this," she whispered, tears welling in her eyes. "I didn't want you to get hurt. I didn't want you to know what I had to do." I took a deep breath, trying to stay calm despite the whirlwind of emotions inside me. "I don't understand, Eliza. How could you keep this from me? How could you let me believe that everything was fine when it wasn't? I've spent my whole life trusting you, and now, I don't know what to believe." "I was scared," she said softly, her voice breaking. "Scared of what I had gotten myself into. I thought I could fix it, that I could get out of it on my own. But the deeper I got, the harder it became to get out. The collective, they control everything. They don't just let people go." I could see the fear in her eyes, the same fear that I had felt when I first learned the truth. She wasn't just a part of this dangerous group. She was trapped in it, struggling to escape, and scared of what might happen if she tried to leave. "I didn't want to hurt you, James," she continued, tears streaming down her face. "I never meant to put you in danger. But I didn't know how to get out. I didn't know how to fix the mess I had made." For a long moment, we just sat there in silence. I could see the regret in her eyes, and it broke me. It broke everything I thought I knew. I realized then that, despite everything, I still loved her. The Eliza I had married was still inside her. She was still the woman I had fallen in love with, even if she had made terrible choices. And maybe, just maybe, there was still a chance for us. "I don't know what to do, Eliza," I said softly, my voice filled with vulnerability. "I don't know how we move past this." But Eliza looked at me, and for the first time in what felt like forever, she smiled. A real smile, not the cold, distant smile I had seen in the past months. It wasn't a perfect smile, but it was sincere. "We fight," she said quietly. "We fight to fix what I've broken. We fight to make things right." It wasn't going to be easy. I knew that. Trust, once broken, couldn't be repaired overnight. But in that moment, I realized that I couldn't walk away from her. Not when she was willing to fight, to make amends. And maybe, just maybe, we could rebuild what we had lost. Together. The journey ahead would be long, filled with more difficult conversations, hard truths, and the shadows of the past that would always linger. But I knew one thing for certain. I wasn't alone. Eliza was still here, still fighting, and so was I. And for the first time in a long while, I allowed myself to believe that we could find a way back to each other. As we sat there, the weight of everything that had happened between us still hung in the air, but there was a lightness too, a glimmer of hope that hadn't been there before. We didn't have all the answers, and we didn't know what the future would bring, but we had each other, and for now, that was enough. Together, we would face whatever came next. Together, we would rebuild. And maybe, just maybe, we would find our way back to happiness.